Have you ever been trying to buy something on a website or contact the business, but it felt like they literally made it difficult on purpose? Or it could be small things like a button not working or content that bleeds off a page. Well, if you're like most people, the answer is yes. In fact, the average person visits 130 websites per day, so chances are this happens to you every single day. And as a website designer myself, I thought that if some of the best looking websites suck to use, then it must be something else other than looks that makes a website great, right? So I took 100 top performing websites to see what they all have in common and why they get so many sales. But before we get into our analysis, it's important to understand what a website actually is. Being a web designer for the past 3 years, I found that there are 3 different types of websites. Now, these categories are mostly subjective and different websites can fit in multiple categories, but overall, there's informational sites that just really give a first impression and they're not really meant for a specific call to action for the customer or user of that website to do something. It's just to give information. 2, lead generation sites. So these are meant for users to complete a specific call to action, whether that's filling out a form, clicking a call button, emailing, purchasing a product. These are specifically for getting in touch with the business. It's really bridging the gap between the customer and the business. And then 3, this is just other, so software, movies, gaming. They loosely fit into the second category, but for the purposes of this analysis, we're sticking to a local business or corporations who use their website to get customers. Again, whether that's filling out a form or purchasing a product. I'm gonna show you the 3 things I found that these websites all have in common so that you can implement it on your website today or just learn more about websites and what makes them perform well. But if you do wanna implement these things on your website, the crazy part is it should only take you about 10 minutes or less. And if you stay to the end, I have a bonus thing that isn't on your website, but it will make the biggest impact of all when it comes to getting more sales or customers from your website. So first off, why am I actually doing this? Well, if you don't know, I'm a web designer. I have a web design / SEO agency, and I really wanted to learn more and get actual data on what makes websites great, because for the longest time I've been saying web design in 2023, 2024, and going into 2025 is dead. What makes a high performing website these days is not the typical design theories that people learn in school. It's other things like calls to action, copywriting, the simplicity of a website. These are all things that factor in my opinion, what makes a website great. But I wanted to get real data, real numbers to back this up. And so that's exactly what I did. I took 40 of our customers' top performing websites, and then I took 60 websites that I know perform well that are either big companies like Apple, Samsung, Tesla, or just local companies in my area that I can see get a ton of traffic on Google. For the purposes of this study in particular, I only used websites that were selling their own products or service. So for example, Amazon, Walmart, Netflix, Pinterest, etc. Those websites don't count. This is more based around product websites or local service websites. The data I was collecting were 1, how many calls to action per section there were on the homepage. So a call to action is a button that, like it says in the name, calls someone to a specific action. So get in touch for a free quote, shop our products, purchase product, all those buttons, those are calls to action. So how many of those there were on the homepage per section? This would tell me how easy it is on a website for a customer to get in touch with them. If there's more calls to action, it makes it easier for the customer at any point on the homepage to get in touch with the business. 2, I looked at the average number of form fields that website had. So a form could be to get a free quote from a business, to get a proposal, a consultation, but a form could also be filling out your information to buy a product online. The number of form fields is going to tell me again how easy it is to get in touch with a business. The more form fields you have to fill out on a website, the more work it is for a website user to actually do that, and the less likely they are to do so. And finally, I looked at whether or not the website displayed social proof on the homepage. Social proof can be anything from written testimonials, Google reviews, your portfolio, projects you've done in the past, pictures of your work. These are all forms of social proof that show you've done your work for other people in the past and they've had a good experience with you. Now, it's pretty common knowledge that Google reviews are important to have, and the more 5-star reviews you have, the more likely it is for someone to choose your business over another one that doesn't have as many 5-star reviews. But I wanted to see if the majority of top performing websites in their own industries display social proof as a main section on their homepage. So most of these metrics were taken from the homepage and main services pages of these websites. I didn't want to dive too deeply into every single page of a website because some people have a 1-page website and some people have 200 pages on their website, and it wouldn't really make sense to go into every single page because there's definitely different use cases for a website. And if you own a local service business and you're watching this, you probably don't have 200 pages on your website. That being said, one more thing before we actually get into the key findings of this analysis. Being a web designer for the past 3 years, I found that there are 3 different types of websites. Now, these categories are mostly subjective and different websites can fit in multiple categories, but overall, there's informational sites that just really give a first impression and they're not really meant for a specific call to action for the customer or user of that website to do something. It's just to give information. 2, lead generation sites. So these are meant for users to complete a specific call to action, whether that's filling out a form, clicking a call button, emailing, purchasing a product. These are specifically for getting in touch with the business. It's really bridging the gap between the customer and the business. And then 3, this is just other, so software, movies, gaming. They loosely fit into the second category, but for the purposes of this analysis, we're sticking to a local business or corporations who use their website to get customers. Again, whether that's filling out a form or purchasing a product. So let's get into the key findings of this analysis. All right, so this is the Google Sheet that I use to track all of the metrics for each website. Everything that's in this yellow beige background is clients that we've either worked with in the past or currently work with. Everything below here is other websites. So you can see we have like New Balance, Lululemon, Pandora, but also other websites that are local service businesses as well. And so to get right down to the results of the study, you can see here at the top, this first column here is the number of calls to action per section. So for example, this one has 50%. So in other words, that's another way of saying every second section has a call to action. For every 2 sections on the website, there's 1 call to action. The average number of form fields on this website, and then does it display social proof or not? So if it's a 1, that means yes. If it's a 0, that means no. So let's get down to the results. In total, for all 100 websites, 60% of sections have a call to action. That means for every 5 sections, 3 of them have a call to action. The average number of form fields is 6.69. And does it display social proof? Found that 82% of these top performing websites display social proof. So what does this tell us? First of all, with the calls to action, it's stupidly easy to get in touch with these businesses or purchase their product. 3 to 5 sections having a call to action means most of the sections on a website have a button calling the user to do a specific action, like purchase a product, fill out a form, call the business, right? This is consistent with small companies and also the big corporations like Apple, like Samsung, right? Selling products that already have a huge market. Secondly, the conversion mechanism itself is really simple. So whether that's like filling out your information to purchase a product, your credit card stuff, filling out a form, whatever that conversion mechanism is to actually get in touch with the business or purchase a product, it's really simple. It doesn't take a lot of brain power, right? What I found that was really interesting though was the bigger brands tended to have more form fields because they don't care about sacrificing some leads who have a lower intent. So the more form fields a website has to get in touch with the business, typically the less leads it will get because it takes more willpower, more effort to actually fill out that form and do it. So you have to have kind of a higher intent to get in touch with that business to actually complete that form and submit it. But what I also found was there are websites who they're bigger brands, and this can mean a big brand like Apple, but also a big brand in your local area who get a ton of leads, but they don't have a long form, like 10 or 15 fields to fill it out. They actually have a shorter form. And because of this, they get a lot of leads. Some of them have a higher intent, some of them have a lower intent. However, they're able to capitalize on more because they have a killer sales team who can take someone from a 2 out of 10 intent to buy the product to a 10 out of 10 and still close them. So I guess the lesson here is, even if you are a bigger brand, it might make sense to have a small form on your website that's shorter, that might not get the best quality leads, but if you have sales skills or a good sales team, you could still turn those people into customers. And finally, like you saw, most of the websites, 82% of them showed social proof on the website. And something interesting that I found that actually will tie in later to the bonus is that the websites that didn't show any reviews or testimonials, they were already established brands that didn't really need to put customer reviews at the forefront of the website. Like Arc'teryx is not gonna have customer reviews or testimonials on their website unless it's some like cinematic video about a customer who's a climber or something that uses their gear, right? It's not gonna have a formal or a typical review like you would see on a local service business. So given this information and the findings from this analysis, what should you do on your website if you wanna get more customers? Well, if it isn't obvious enough already, have at least 3 calls to action per 5 sections on your website. So every other section, have a call to action there. Even better, put a call to action on every section of your website. It seems like it'd get annoying after a certain point, but in the minds of a website user, it's actually beneficial for them because essentially wherever they are on the website, they can click and get in touch with you. They don't have to look around or dig for that button to get in touch with you. And if they have to dig for it, they're probably not gonna waste their time anyways. 2, use shorter forms. If you can, use less than 6 or 7 form fields on your form so it's easier for someone to get in touch with you, not as much effort on their end, and you'll probably end up getting more leads. And finally, show the work that you do. Show your testimonials, your Google reviews. If it's a video testimonial from a client, that's even better. Show your portfolio of work. Anything you can that shows you are competent at what you do or the product that you're selling works, that will absolutely help your website. So as promised, there's a bonus finding from this analysis that's more subjective than it is objective, as in you can't really track it for every single business or track how much of it there is, but it's good word of mouth. If your product or your service is so good that people feel the need to write a testimonial about it or tell other people about it, like their friends and their families who they trust, your website doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have exactly 3 calls to action per 5 sections or 6 form fields or social proof on the website. If you have great word of mouth, your website will get leads. These things, these metrics that I showed you, all help to get more leads from your website if people just come in cold. But if you have good word of mouth, you can have crappy marketing and still win, because nothing beats a good referral. Just like I talked about earlier with the big brand websites, you don't see testimonials or customer reviews on their website main pages. Maybe you see it on the product page specifically, but you don't see it it's not in your face. And the reason for this is because their products are spoken for. People know the quality of services and products that they have. So what are my final thoughts? While web design is important, it'll only get you so far. You can have a great looking website, but the user experience is much more important. So my theory about website design not being important or at the forefront of your design process for a website is not necessarily true. It's more about prioritizing the user experience on the website. So to summarize this all, if you want to get more out of your website, more purchases, form submissions, calls, etc., it's about using the website for what its intended purpose is. And like in the case study today, that's using the website as a call to action, bridging the gap between your customers, your leads, and you as a business. So have a ton of calls to action on the website, make it ridiculously easy for someone to get in touch with you. And 3, put your social proof, your testimonials, reviews, portfolio, case studies, your process onto the website so people can see it. That's it for today's video. If you got any value out of this, feel free to subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.